Okay, so today we're going to talk about linear functions, and we're going to focus specifically on standard form. We want to be able to, first of all, identify what standard form is and if an equation is in standard form. And then we're going to want to be able to graph in standard form. And lastly, to find the x and y intercepts from the graph or put them on the graph is what we're going to look at. So let's talk about what standard form is. First of all, standard form is written in the form ax plus by equals c. The one thing that you'll notice is that a or x and y are on the same side and they're always equal to a constant. C is some number, 9, 12, -3, whatever. So x and y will be together on one side and they will be equal to a number. A and b are also numbers, so a lot of times you might see like 2x plus 4y is equal to 8, something like that. That will be in standard form. When we graph standard form, we graph the x and y intercepts. So we're going to use the equation and we're going to find the x and y intercepts, and then we're going to graph them to make a line. So standard form is kind of nice in that you just find the 2 points, you connect them, and you make the line, okay? So to graph a line in standard form, first you want to solve for the intercepts. You do that by plugging 0 in for x to find y and plugging 0 in for y to find x. And then we'll kind of work through that and how to solve that. Second, you're going to graph those intercepts. So the x-intercept you graph on the x-axis, the y-intercept you graph on the y-axis. And then you connect the points to sketch a line. Remember that a line always has arrows on the end and it extends past the points to show that it is infinite. So let's look at this one. The first thing we're going to do, step 1, is to solve for the intercepts. So to do that, we're going to put 0 in for each variable. Let's start by plugging 0 in for y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 3x minus 4 times 0 is equal to 12. Well, we know that 4 times 0 is 0. So in reality, what we have is 3x equals 12, which is easy to solve, x equals 4. So this means that we have an x-intercept at 4, 0. Now we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to substitute 0 in for x, and we're going to solve for y. So we're going to say 3 times 0 minus 4y is equal to 12. Well, 3 times 0 is 0, so negative 4y is equal to 12, meaning that y is equal to -3. So now we have another intercept at 0, -3. We found our x-intercept by putting 0 in for y. We found our y-intercept by putting 0 in for x. Step 2 is to plot both of those points. So I have an x-intercept at 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go to 4 on the x-axis. And then I have a y-intercept at 0, -3. So I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3 on the y-axis. And then the nice thing about standard form is I can just connect those lines. But let's say I want to get another point. Here's something kind of fun and easy. I can count the slope from intercept to intercept. So from my y-intercept to x-intercept, it's up 3 and over 4. So I can go up 3 and over 4 to make another point. Or I could go down 3 and I could go left 4, if I can count, to make another point. Now I've got several points to make my line. You don't have to, but it can be helpful, especially if you're not great at drawing straight lines like me. Notice I extended the line past the points and I drew arrows on the end to show that it is infinite. So just to recap, again, we plugged in 0 for y to find x. We plugged in 0 for x to find y. We graphed our intercepts. I counted the slope just to be a little extra and then made our line. Let's try another one. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to put 0 in for y to solve for x. So I'm going to say 2/3 x plus 0 is equal to 5. Well, that means that 2/3 x is equal to 5. When I divide that, I get x is equal to 15 over 2, which is 7.5. So I'm going to have an x-intercept at 7.50. And then I'm going to do the same thing to find y. So I'm going to put 0 in for x. So 2/3 times 0 plus y, is equal to 5. 2/3 times 0 is just 0, so y is equal to 5, meaning I have a y-intercept at 0, 5. The y-intercept is pretty easy, so I'm just going to count up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and make a point. But how do I graph 7.5? Well, on the x-axis, I'm going to count over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to go halfway between 7 and 8. Now, we use the word sketch. Hopefully, you've noticed this in a couple of my lessons here. The word sketch means that we are not being super precise with the graph. It's okay that I'm ballparking 7.5 because I'm drawing a sketch of a line, okay? So this is just a sketch. Nobody's getting out a magnifying glass to make sure that you're at 7.5 instead of 7.4. The idea is to be able to sketch it and see kind of where the points lie, okay? Let's try one more. This time we're going to solve for the intercepts. I hope you're kind of catching on when I do this. I like to just kind of eliminate. So I would just say 3x equals 9 because I already know y is going to be 0. So then x equals 3, which means I have an intercept at 3, 0. You are completely okay to do that. In fact, I kind of like to just cover it up sometimes. So then I know negative y equals 9, which means that y equals negative 9. So I have a y-intercept at 0, negative 9. Okay? So I plugged 0 in for both x and y to solve for the other variable. I just didn't show my work for it, and that's okay. You don't have to. So let me graph these points. So I have an x-intercept at 3, 0. So I'm going to go over 3. And then I have a y-intercept at negative 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to go all the way down to negative 9. And then I'm going to connect these. Now, these are a little far apart for me. So the slope is up 9 and over 3, which is the same thing as up 3 and over 1. So I'm just going to make some intermediate points there just to kind of help me draw what I hope is going to be a straight line here. I'm going to connect the points and then I'm going to draw my arrows on the end. So hopefully you're kind of seeing how this works. I'm hoping that you can identify standard form. Remember that you're looking for the x and y to be on the same side and that they are equal to a constant. I'm also hoping that you can find the x and y intercepts by setting each variable equal to 0. So set y equal to 0 to solve for x, set x equals 0 to solve for y, and then that you can graph a line. Remember that we are sketching, so you're plotting the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and connecting them to make that line.